Welcome to Rage, Grace, and Everything in Between. This is our unfiltered conversation about navigating neurodivergence and every stage of menopause at the same time.
Hi, I'm Michelle, postmenopausal ADHD.
And I'm Angel, perimenopausal and ADHD. We're not here as experts. We're just two neurodivergent midlife women figuring it out in real time.
If you've ever felt alone, broken, or like you're losing your mind, you're not. You're unmasking, you're changing, you're becoming.
If you're a neurodivergent woman in midlife,
Or someone who loves one,
this is your permission slip, your exhale, your reminder that you're allowed to take up space.
so grab your beverage of choice, lower your expectations, and settle in. Welcome to the conversation. Let's begin. So who the fuck is this bitch? You ever catch your reflection and think, who is that? Like, not just the face, but the actual woman behind it. The one who used to know what she wanted, what she liked, used to know what she stood for. Somewhere between hormones and survival mode, she got a little blurry. So today we're going to talk about identity loss, and how it sneaks up and what our personal experience dealing with it is.
Well, my identity has been shifting for a few years, so I'm earlier in this journey than you are.
Right.
But it has been shifting for a few years, and I stopped recognizing myself about a year ago in the mirror. Used to be once in a while, you'd wake up and you're a little bit drier than usual, you're a little bit more sunken, a little bit more, and
Get these nice little jowls.
yeah, my neck, I have the family neck.
Right.
But in saying that, recently, have you ever heard a grandparent say that they fell in love with their grandchild immediately because they can see everyone they've ever loved?
No, I haven't heard that one. The one I always heard was the reason grandchildren and grandparents get along so well is because they share a common enemy.
I mean, that's why they get along.
I wouldn't know.
They're bonded.
No grandchildren.
But it's like that they can see everyone that they've ever loved, and I'm starting to see that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see that in myself. I'm starting to see everyone I've ever loved. My aunts, my parents, my grandparents, brothers and sisters, cousins, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, like if you think about when we do that in our red tent events, when we call back our matriarchy.
That's just it. Like it's the ancestral. I'm starting to feel more connected
Yeah.
to my ancestors.
Yeah, like when you view yourself through not just who you are here, but like the whole of your experience, which is everything you inherited before, Yeah.
Think about the women that came before you, and I don't know, it makes you a little bit stronger, a little bit prouder, I think.
Right. But there was this person that we identified as until all of this unraveling. And like, it doesn't happen all at once.
No.
It is a
Yeah,
very
a little bit.
slow leak, almost until you don't even know that you're losing air out of your tire until it's completely, you just come out one morning and you're like, where did this flat tire come from? Right. It's kind of how we experience this. Like it happens so slowly. We don't notice it until we notice the mass of it.
Like I said before, it used to happen once in a while. I would wake up, I wouldn't recognize myself. The next day, it'd be me again.
Right.
But then at a certain point, where'd the flat tire come from? Every morning I wake up and I was like, okay, when am I coming back? When is
Yeah. Like, what's that one philosophical idea about like you have a ship, a brand new ship, and it sets out onto the ocean, and every year you have to do maintenance. You have to replace this board. You have to replace that board. You have to replace this mast.
One board at a
Like,
time.
at what point is the ship still that original ship that was launched, and now it's no longer contains any of its original parts, right? You're a sum of all of these equations of your life. But, you know, there comes a point where that old self, you have to have a reckoning with who that old identity was, you know, and then you tie in like the neuroscience of being neurodivergent, late diagnosis, just discovering who you are through that lens, and then compound it with you know, the hormonal upheaval of perimenopause and menopause. Like, what parts of you feel missing? Like, what is the overall, what am I trying to say? Like, what is the overall effect of the motivation and self-concept? Like who told you that those parts of you had to go? Like, you know?
I mean, nobody. They just kind of, there's a natural evolution, I think, to these things.
Well, I guess because of the autism side of my neurodivergence, my experience has been of constant criticism, constant feedback, negative or perceived to be negative feedback, because it doesn't matter how the feedback comes. I'm always going to perceive it as a criticism. Yeah. Always going to feel critical. But there was a point in my life where the people in my midst would describe me as always dependable. Yet I was forgetting things and losing time. People would always describe me as the grounded one. I'm just realizing now as I'm saying this, that was by comparison to my family, who is deeply neurodivergent. But I always felt like I was flailing, you know? It's, I was always described as the one that had it together. Like, when I would break down and finally, you know, get into the dating pool, which happened very rarely because I have such complex PTSD every time I take a swim in that in that pool, right? But you know, these men would glom onto me because I was so grounded.
You just got your shit together.
Shit together, yeah. And no, you cannot move out of your mother's basement into my house. You know, like I'm just barely holding it together. You know, I like the biggest shift in identity probably happened when I quit smoking and gained all that weight. Like, I had really identified as this very healthy, buxom woman.
Right, you were in the military and you were working out.
I always held myself, like, you know. Yeah. And I made the choice to quit smoking and just pack the pounds on. Now, as I'm saying it out loud, realizing like where in the fluctuation of hormones I was, this was around the time that you start to put on belly fat anyways.
Okay.
You know,
so
as the hormones
lifestyle
deplete.
change
Yeah.
plus hormone shifts.
I switched from working, 5 years I worked the night shift, switched to working the day shift, switched from homeschooling my son to sending him to school. Like, I was having one relationship failure after another. Like, literally every time I dipped in, it was just so problematic.
I mean, that has to do with past, what is it? Unresolved, like, fatherly stuff.
Well, that's what every therapist and every incel wants to say. I don't think it's just unresolved.
No, I'm not. I'm saying
issues.
the men you were attracted to.
Could be.
Could be.
But I have frequently dated outside of my attraction pool, just because of that. Just because of that awareness that I don't want to, you know, like when I watched everybody else marry their parent, you know, or partner up with their parent, and saw how that worked out, I ran in the opposite direction.
So you even tried to date other people. It didn't work out.
I started to have problems at work where I had not had problems before, mostly because all of the social inequities that I felt were the difference between men and women, because I was in a lot of male roles, you know. But literally over time, I just lost the ground underneath me. It's like that carnival ride where you lean against the wall and it starts to spin, and
The Gravitron.
yeah, and you slide up the wall, right?
The worst ride.
I loved it because it let me forget that that's what was happening in my real life. So it was just this ride that I was on, you know. But yeah, like, if I had to say what parts I feel missing, is that real confident bravado, like, just won't take no for an answer. Like, I just succeeded at everything I tried. You know, that woman, I miss her. You know, it's been almost 9 months since I've had a job. Like, it's getting desperate.
I don't really know. I can't really pinpoint what's changed, but one of the biggest things for me is my social interactions, really, because I used to be able to go from one social event to the next. I used to be able to just go from work to the next thing to the next thing.
Oh yeah, just power through.
Oh, just go through and I'd be fine. I might, you know, after a couple of days of that, I might take a day or two for myself. Like when I was a teenager.
Because you'd have burnout. We recognize that
tell
now.
My mom to ground me and to not let me go anywhere, or ask her, please just say no, because I needed.
I remember you saying that.
I would purposely get grounded just so that I didn't have to do anything. Otherwise, my friends were literally dragging me. I have been picked up and thrown into a car.
Sleeping. Like
they would show up and just wake me up and say, let's go. And I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. So I would have to tell my mom to say no. It's kind of funny because now I know why I did that, because it was burnout, but it was constant and I was fine. And then I got to the point where in between events I would need 20 minutes and then an hour and then 2 hours. And now I'm maxed out at one social event a day, and then I need 2 days rest after.
Yeah. Like we said in last Wednesday's episode, you know, like, it's nothing more joyful than somebody else canceling a social event that we were actually, you know, probably going to enjoy.
Yeah, but you get it's almost like you get your time back, you know?
Yeah.
I can't wear what I used to, you know, when you look in the mirror. I said earlier, you look in the mirror, you don't recognize yourself. I put clothes on that I love that used to look fine on me, and now it's like tight in the stomach and weird in the shoulders and just uncomfortable. This was big 6 months ago. This was big, comfy, cozy 6 months ago, and now it looks ridiculous. And it's just so unpredictable. The way I feel every day, the way I look every day, everything is so unpredictable right now. And I actually have a friend, I don't know if I've talked about this in the past episodes, right? That she will only say yes to something if she can say no later. Like if she can cancel later.
She has the option to cancel.
She has the option to cancel, and I'm almost there.
Yeah.
But I actually, since last Saturday, I think I'm gonna max out at one social event in a 2-day span.
Right? Like the literal definition of the change. We'll call it the change, but I mean, at a metaphysical, at a physical, at a biological, at a spiritual level, we are changing. So the mask and the mirror. We've talked about stimming and masking in previous episodes, but self-suppression isn't something that just belongs to neurodivergent women. Like, this is all midlife women. They adapt these as survival strategies, you know. These are just lessons that they learned from, the School of Hard Knocks. Right? Yeah. Reluctant learning.
We're learning the hard way.
Right? Learning the hard way. I didn't sign up for this, but here we are, right? I've got this cute little 2-panel picture up in my office right next to my desk, and it's a cactus. and the cactus is in the pouring rain, and he says, I didn't sign up for this. And then in the next panel, he's just covered in beautiful flowers. He's just bloomed. And he says, but maybe I needed this. Or no, it says, this isn't what I wanted, but maybe this is what I needed. And, just the hard lesson of knowing that you're going to accumulate skills that you maybe never wanted to have, but are going to become necessary. I would ask our audience, like, drop a comment in anytime you notice that your behavior is more, your identity is more performative in certain situations versus when you're able to be your authentic self. I'm never more honest than when I'm drinking. For masking, I can look back now and remember there was a specific time in which I had started to notice so much negative feedback. Like, all of these situations that I thought I had been in before and succeeded, suddenly I was getting a lot of criticism for. And it doesn't matter how compassionate your feedback is. I'm going to assume it's criticism anyways. That's just the way my brain is wired. That's how I'm going to translate any kind of pushback on something that I've done, right? I do better if you praise me constructively. Just words of wisdom, right? Michelle's instruction manual. But I remember, like, when we went from communicating inter-office through email to communicating by messenger. Everybody used AOL Instant Messenger in the beginning, and then it started to branch out from there. But I would send my BFF any communication I was about to send out. Hey, look through this. And she'd send it back with notes,
Every time.
Yeah, she would have to filter it through neurotypical filter. And I, like that was an experience of like a metaphorical mirror. But if we wanted to go to like a literal mirror, I remember it was like around the time I was 40, and no, actually it was around the time I was 50.
Because time has no meaning.
Time has no meaning anymore, right? I have to remember where I was living, and then I have to subtract from there when I was in Haiti or COVID or the big layoff, big moments in my life. But anyways, I decided to dye my hair darker, and normally I would dye my hair lighter, but for some reason, I was coming into my feelings and decided to go darker. Now, my mom died when she was 28, so I have no idea what my mom would have looked like as a 50-year-old woman. Yeah. But I had my head in the shower, and I, used the towel to get all the dampness out, and threw my head back and turned around, and in the mirror was my mother staring back at me, like, whoa, and like, these are moments that make you realize how much you mask. Up until those points, I didn't see my mother in me. I had my own identity. And like my communication style, I was so good at communications. Like, I had a degree in communications, I got awards for writing. I got a scholarship to college the first time for creative writing, right? I've been getting awards for writing since I was in kindergarten. And so to suddenly realize that my communications are not being received in the method with which I'm trying to deliver them, that was a lot of realizing the mask was slipping. No matter how hard you try, you still turn into your mom or your grandma in my case, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when my mom or my dad comes out of my mouth, I'm just so irritated. But it's funny. I don't know. It's funny right now. And you say, I'm going to go back to you saying that you don't see your mom, and I've never met your mom, right? She died when you were very young, but you have pictures of her. beautiful, gorgeous young woman, and
Yeah.
I see her in you.
Yeah.
I can only imagine your grandmother knowing your mother, seeing her in you every day.
Well, and then Emily, when Emily came back into our lives. So Emily popped into our lives in between October and November, the year she moved back to Michigan. We were in the Roseville house, so Nick was still in high school. I think he was turning 16 that year. So
not everyone knows who Nick and Emily are.
Yeah, these are my kids. But I'm just saying the things out loud that I need to know to track back what year it was, right? But for the whole summer before she popped up in my MySpace messages, my grandmother was having dreams about a redheaded girl coming and knocking on her door and saying, "Hi, I'm your granddaughter," for like 4 or 5 months before.
Because Emily was looking for you.
Yeah, like when you want to talk about the psychic shit that neurodivergent women are capable of, like.
I'm telling you what, I think my entire family would be diagnosed as schizophrenic if there wasn't
300
always
years ago.
Well, even today, if there wasn't always somebody there to confirm they're experiencing the same thing and you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we could be experiencing the same thing and be crazy.
Oh, yeah. Because
they're not mutually exclusive, but yeah. No.
I'm just buried under all of life's expectations and trying to be on time. Just expectations and trying to be on time is more than enough for me. So I had a conversation with a 22-year-old young woman a couple weeks ago, and she's graduating college this spring. Her degree is going to be in social work. She's actually interning in Wayne County right now. And if you don't know Wayne County, that's where Detroit, Michigan is. And she said, I have an aunt who is serious every day. She has her great head on her shoulders. She takes care of business. Like, she has her shit together. But when she's out drinking, hanging out, partying, she's just a completely different person.
Am I her aunt?
And as she's talking, I'm like, I recognize this woman in myself and every woman.
Every neurodivergent friend I have.
Without getting more information, I said, well, maybe she has the weight of the world on her shoulders. And this is the time that she can actually relax, that she doesn't have to worry about anything. She gives herself this time. Like, the next morning, she doesn't have anything going on. These times are planned. And she says, well, she does own and run her own business. I was like, oh, yeah. Well, then multiply that by 1,000. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like even women with all the privilege, they hold on, they carry the world on their shoulders. And the more responsibility you have, the heavier the burden. I don't want to say burden, but like single mothers, you have to take care of yourself, your children, your home, everything. And taking care of aging parents and everything else.
Well, nothing makes us more honest than alcohol, though, right?
So I do the same thing. I work so hard at having my shit together every day that when I'm drinking, forget it. It's like twice a year I do it. But
yeah, at the Christmas family dinner at that restaurant for Kevin's birthday.
I didn't even go all out, but I was like...
you were lugubrious that night, man.
I was
and you. You loved everybody.
I was having so much fun.
Yeah. So reclaiming the fragments, right? We get to a point where we rediscover some things that maybe the struggle of masking and maintaining all of that for so long interferes with our ability to do the things that we enjoy. And so as you start to come back out the other side of it, you rediscover things that calmed your nerves. You rediscover things that brought you peace, that brought you joy. We are less willing to give our time up to the burdens and the obligations and the expectations.
The shit that doesn't matter anymore. The stuff that we realize now, it's...
Where's the trash can?
Oh.
We take out the trash, right? I got Angel a nice little trash can, right? We take out the trash. So once we start clearing that space, we have still some very limited energy and motivation, but we're inclined to do things that are pleasing to us. My grandmother was in such a deep depression for most of my adult life. And after my grandfather passed away, I dragged her into her doctor's office and I said, look, she's depressed. And doctor says, well, tell me about it, Sally. Because she had white coat syndrome so bad that no matter what complaints she had when she got into the doctor's office, how you doing, Sally? I'm fine. And so they would just do the regular amounts of, tests and send her home. And then 24 hours later, send her a report card of what all her test results were. So I went in with her and I said, she is depressed. And he said, how are you, Sally? And she said, well, I do have the blues. And he said, oh, what's going on? Well, I lost my husband and I was his caretaker. And, it was so all consuming that after he died, I just needed a break. 14 hours in the recliner watching TV is a bit more than a break, but no judgment.
Yeah.
But he said, well, let's do this little assessment. And there's 15 questions on the assessment. How about this situation? How about that situation? What would you grade this? What would you grade that? Strongly agree, strongly disagree, right? That 5, what is it? The Likert scale or Likert scale. And he gets to the end of it and he says, well, Sally, anybody that answers more than this many questions on this end, we would say that they are majorly depressed. And she goes, oh, I didn't realize. And I said, no, because you've self-medicated my whole life. She was an alcoholic for many years. And then after she had to quit drinking, then she was a chocoholic. And then when she became a diabetic, then she was a sugar-free mintaholic. Like she just went from one overuse to another. Now I'm realizing I'm really, really paying attention since we talked about it, that one episode about chewing being a stim. I'm really starting to pay attention when I'm doing that mindless eating. What sensations am I creating? Like why do I need to do this to soothe? What is the overall experience of doing this?
Kind of like my nail biting. Why? What is it that does that? What part of my brain is being triggered? It's incredible.
Like what I'll notice I'm emotionally experiencing when an episode of that happens, But, rediscovering things that you love. I mean, we'll talk about reinvention more in the next episode, but just a little bit about it. Like tell me about any hobbies that you have rediscovered or reinvented, any new boundaries you said you think you're going to do the one social event at a day, boundary.
That's a new boundary for me as of this past Saturday, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Our identities are evolving all the time. I'll try almost anything once, but this allows me to experience more things, to learn more about myself, to learn more about my community and things that other people are doing, even if I don't like it. That's information.
Well, it's diversifying your experience.
Right. A lot of people, they go to university, they learn more about themselves, and then when they become adults,
join clubs. Yeah.
Yeah. But some people don't do that. Or I'll go back to something that I loved before. I was an artist naturally, and so I wanted to get back into art because I wasn't finding joy in anything else. So I said, okay, what did I used to find joy in? And it was art. Well, my medium of choice when I was younger was charcoal. I hated painting, pencil, like all the clay, didn't like it. I love charcoal. So I went out and bought all the stuff for charcoal. I hate it now. I love painting. So just rediscovering what you enjoy now, who you are now. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, see, I'm part Scottish and part Jewish. So I don't get to switch a hobby until I've used up all of the supplies.
I'm pretty sure I still have charcoal.
I mean, I'm sure that's why my art room is as full as it is, right? But like you said, like got my grandmother to the doctor, got her on some antidepressants, and for the first time in 20 years, she decided she wanted to read. Well, her eyes weren't very good, so she made the choice to go and get the new, artificial lenses put on her eyes. And then all she needed, like she'd worn glasses her whole life. She didn't need glasses anymore. She just needed readers for when she's reading. And she started reading again. She hadn't listened to music in 25 years. And so I got her one of those Google Minis and had her put on our family account. And all she had to remember, which she never did, was, hey, Google, and, do whatever she needed to do. So, we had to constantly retrain her, but it was fun. It was fun, like anybody else could walk in the room and say, hey, Google, play blah, blah, blah. And then grandma had music. And just the fact that she was able to do those couple of things that really brought her joy just completely changed.
Reading and listening to music.
Completely changed her whole outlook on life. Yeah. Like I try to make a joke of it when somebody notices one of my tisms, like my friends and family chide me all the time. My current roommate likes to say, oh, let me finish this. Or I'm going to come back and finish this later, Mom, if he knows that he's leaving something in a way that I don't like.
So that you don't feel pressure.
So I don't feel pressure to do it. Right. Or he'll come upstairs and I'm doing the dishes and he'll say, oh, I was going to do those for you. And it's okay. 'Cause this is just who I am. I've accepted that. But I've also gotten to the point where when I experience that and I have the awareness, I can say to myself, I can let that go. And if that doesn't create any further dissonance, that's a win for everybody. Because then other people get to do things their way. It doesn't it's not my way or the highway,
So that's part of the change for you.
Yeah.
So me setting up more boundaries and saying no more and being okay with it. No being a complete sentence now. And I genuinely get upset when people
want more words.
Want more words. Well, why?
Say more words.
Because I said so.
Yes. Katharine Hepburn was famously quoted as saying, never complain and never explain. That was one of my grandma's favorite like life mantras. Never complain and never explain. That drives me crazy though, because I'm like the state of Missouri. You need to show me.
Because I don't want to.
I'm going to keep asking.
Because I said no. That's it.
Makes my sons crazy because they're both very like private people. I don't care.
And sometimes it's hard to explain yourself.
Ask.
Yeah, sometimes it's just hard to figure out why. I'm not trying to figure out why right now. You just know.
Yeah.
Take it. My husband has a hard time taking the no. I don't think identity loss should be perceived as a failure.
No.
I believe it's a pause for reinvention.
Right.
This is the part that I'm excited about. You
right.
know, there's the scary parts, the rain, and then the bloom. And I'm excited for the bloom. That moment you stop performing and start remembering who you are. When the mask falls and you're like, oh, I can't keep it up. And then you're, oh, this is who I am.
Right.
And being okay with it. We're leveling up, ladies.
We sure are.
I think when you reframed it for me like that, as leveling up, I've perceived this part of life differently ever since then.
I used to say it's a privilege and a pleasure to be a woman every time I had a hot flash. For like the first 8 years that I've had them for almost 11 years now. For the first 8 years, that was my mantra. Every time I'd have one, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be a woman. You know, it's like the snow thing.
Yeah, why be mad?
You can be mad, but it's still going to snow, right?
What I'm going to ask everybody to share with us, what is one thing that you have reclaimed or rediscovered about yourself this month, this year, whenever it is? I'm kind of curious to see what everyone has reclaimed or rediscovered for themselves.
Yeah, drop it in the comments for us. We'd love to hear from you. So don't have any life hacks for this one, ladies, but time for a mindful minute. So if you're not familiar with who Ram Dass is, he is a great guru, I would call him.
Yeah.
Richard Alpert. He grew up Richard Alpert and became Ram Dass. And he famously said that the game is not about becoming somebody, but about becoming nobody. And I have to say, when I first started studying all of this, you know, new agey stuff, I had a hard time with the concept of nobody and nothing, you know. But like I used to say also, when I first started doing all the yoga stuff, you know, I'll do the yoga, but I'm not doing all the hippy dippy stuff. And
now you teach the hippy dippy
stuff. But he wrote a book called Be Here Now. It was one of his famous sayings, be here now. You know, like it's like he says, it's not about becoming somebody. It's about becoming nobody. It's about letting go of all of those behaviors that are driven from expectations and burdens and obligations, and becoming a person that makes decisions about what they're going to participate in and not participate in, that's in their power, right? You know, because there are some things about life that are not in our power, but we're going to take out the trash, right? Let's do some affirmations. I'm just tickled, right?
This is our, what's it called? The sports guy, like the...
Mascot.
This is our mascot.
Our sports guy. You're so cute. I love it.
The guy in the sports that dances around in front of everyone. Our mascot.
Right. But so let's try some affirmations for accepting who we are now without judgment, without expectation. So I'm going to say the affirmation, and then you can repeat it out loud or repeat it in your head or just listen. It's your choice, right? So take a deep breath in, sit up nice and tall. Repeat after me. I am enough just as I am.
I am enough just as I am.
I love and accept myself exactly as I am.
I love and accept myself exactly as I am.
I am worthy of love, flaws and all.
I am worthy of love, flaws and all.
I accept all of me with love.
I accept all of me with love.
I am perfectly imperfect.
I am perfectly imperfect.
I am exactly where I need to be.
I am exactly where I need to be.
Lovely. That's all I have for this week. How about you, Angel?
That's it for me. We will meet you in the rage, hold you in the grace, and sit with you in everything in between.
Knowing who you are at any age, in any season of life, is never something to grieve. It is always, always, always something to celebrate. So let's celebrate together. Bye for now.
Bye.